Today we're going to go ahead and get started with our ELA lesson. So, if you remember on Friday, we started looking at lesson 1.1. Can you please turn to your Springboard books and find lesson 1.1? And if you were not here on Friday, when we get going, I will come and try and help you fill you in on what you've missed. Also, people at your table groups can help out with that. So people who were absent on Friday, get them caught up. That would be wonderful. Please go ahead and then find lesson 1.1 in your INB. Again, if you were absent on Friday, you won't know what that is, but your groups can help you. All right, can I have somebody read the first learning target out loud, please? It's also projected on the board. Nice and loud, the first one. Shiloh, go ahead.
Preview the big ideas, academic vocabulary, and literacy terms for the unit.
Very good. So if you remember on Friday, I had you rewrite that learning target in your own words. Can you please really quickly in your table groups talk about and share how did you rewrite that learning target? So on Friday, remember when we rewrote the first one? Does someone want to share how they rewrote it in their own words? Priska, do you want to share what you have?
Mine's a little weird, but
It's okay.
what I do is I can preview big ideas and literacy.
Okay, good. So I can preview big ideas. Do we know what the word preview means? Yeah? Okay. All right, did we have a chance to share over here? Yeah, everyone? Okay, so Shauna's copying, perfect. And Shauna, I have a copy that you can look at too. Okay. All right, let's have someone read the second learning target. Who can read that for me nice and loud in a big voice? Sierra.
I can identify and analyze the skills and knowledge needed to complete embedded assessments and one successfully.
Very good. And Friday also, we paraphrase this in our own words. Quickly share in your table groups how you paraphrase this, what you have down in your INB. Okay. So Jaden, once we get going, I'll show you my example, and then you can get copying in your book, okay? But today we're doing this lesson. All right. So we have a chance to share?
What'd you do?
Okay, thank you, class. Question for you. So if you remember back on Friday, we started with the why, and we started a sentence starter, and our sentence starter says, these targets are important because. Think about, why are these learning targets important? What is the purpose of them? Okay, I want you to share, talk in your table groups, and then I'm going to pick numbered spoons. So you're going to need to do two things for me. One, talk about why these targets are important. And two, you need to number yourselves off at your table group. Go ahead and start, please. All right. Why are these targets important? What do you think?
Because we need to preview big ideas.
Why would we preview it first?
So then we know what to do.
Yeah, so you know what to do on the assessment. How about the second target?
You have to understand the knowledge.
And what is this helping us do? What are we getting ready to do?
Complete the assessment.
Do you remember what the embedded assessment is? Radu, do you remember what it is? No? Can someone help him out? What is an what's an assessment? A test. So remember, the test that we're going to take is a writing assignment, and that's showing how much that you know. Okay? All right. If you have not done so already, can you please finish this sentence in your INB? These targets are important because, make sure everyone has it filled out, and then I'm going to call numbered spoons to see who would like to share. These targets are important because. Hannah, can you put that away, please? Thank you. All right, as you're finishing up, I went ahead and I typed in my response. This is why I think these targets are important, and I finished my sentence by saying, these targets are important because they will help me be successful on embedded assessment number 1. Now I'd like to hear what you think, why you think these are important. So I'm going to call on people, make sure you have your number. Let's do red table person number 1. Can you share why these are important? Do you have numbers? Yeah? Priska, are you 1? How about somebody at the red table? Can you go ahead and share for us? Thank you, Priska. Okay, can you say that one more time nice and loud so everyone can hear?
These targets are important because it helps us to finish this assessment easier.
Good. Okay, let's do green table. Green table, person number 5. Nice and loud, can you read your sentence, please?
I think it's very good.
It's okay, can you tell us, why do you think these are important? Why is it important to preview the big ideas and the vocabulary? Why is it important to look at those before we take the assessment?
To help success.
To help be successful? Sure, good job. Okay, and one more, yellow table. Yellow table, person number 5. Can you share with us, please? Nice and loud.
These targets are important because it will teach us new stuff and get us ready for next year.
I like that answer. Very good. Did we hear it over there? Can you try it again, nice and loud in a big voice so everyone can hear?
These targets are important because it teaches us new stuff for next year.
Yes, it teaches us new stuff for next year and for the rest of the unit, right? For the rest of this year. Okay. Please silently on your own find the part that says making connections in your book. Okay, I want you to read this on your own, please. Making connections on page 4. I'll know you're done reading when you're looking up here. Okay, so making connections is just another way to talk about what we're focusing on in this unit. But after you've read this and from what we've talked about on last Friday and Thursday, what is this unit going to be focusing on? What kind of things are we going to see in this unit? Shiloh?
Stories talking about changes.
Yeah, stories talking about change, okay? In this section that you just read, there's a word that's in bold. What is that word? Class, out loud, what is it?
Analyze.
Analyze. Analyze is one of our academic vocabulary words, and I'm going to have to put that up on our word wall. That's our first one. Do you think that you could define the word analyze in your own words? Yes? Maybe. Is analyze a Q word, an H word, or a T word for you? Think back to our strategy, QHT. Turn to the person next to you and say, is analyze a Q, an H, or a T for you? Okay, so some of you, I'm hearing lots of H's, some T's. Let's read the definition together. Find the definition off to the left-hand side under academic vocabulary. Read that definition, and then I would like you, in your own words, to define analyze. You're going to write that in your INB, the word analyze, and your definition of what it means. If analyze is a Q word, it is okay if you want to talk to somebody next to you about what they think it means to help. So read the definition. Then in your INB, please write down analyze and what the word analyze means. Yes?
We just read the whole thing?
You can read the whole thing. Do you have to copy this whole thing though?
No.
No. So I want you to take it, read it, get an idea of what analyze means, and then I want you to write it your own definition in your book. Okay? This word right here. Yep, so once you've read the definition, write down what you think analyze means in your INB. Got it? Okay. Everyone good? Olivia? Yeah. Aubrey, do you have the definition? So to analyze, this is what their definition is. You analyze, you separate something into parts and study how the parts are related. Does that make sense? So how could you rewrite that in your own words? You don't know? How about this? Why don't you copy just this part, this definition here into your book, and then hopefully once we get going, you're going to understand a little bit more about what analyze means. Show me how many minutes you need on your fingers to finish this definition. Okay, some people are close. How about one more minute? Isaiah, you got it? Okay, as you are finishing up, when I think of analyze, I think of a detective or somebody who investigates a crime scene. Okay? And think about if there's a crime, how do they figure out who did it? What's something that somebody who is investigating a crime scene, what would they do? What's something that they would do? Isaiah? Find clues. What kind of clues might they look for? What would a detective look for if they're investigating the scene of a crime? Yeah, fingerprints. And what do they do with those fingerprints? What do they do with fingerprints in a crime scene, Branson? Scan them. And what are they looking for? So after they scan them, they're looking for what?
A positive match.
Yeah, a positive match. So if they know whose those fingerprints belong to, then there's a good chance that that person was the person that was guilty of the crime. right? So to me, that's what I think of when I think of analyze. So if I'm analyzing a crime scene, I'm going to look for clues, and I'm going to see how all the clues fit together. I'm going to put all those clues together, and then hopefully I'm able to solve the crime. Okay? So think about analyze when you first heard the word. If it was a Q, an H, or a T, last week I had you write QHT if you want to flip back really quickly to the next page and see what you said analyze was. Hopefully now analyze is an H word, or eventually it will become a T word for you. Okay? All right. Now, there are 2 essential questions back on page 4. Okay? Remembering our strategy for marking the text, for each question, can you please circle the verb and underline the noun for the 2 essential questions? Go ahead and underline the nouns also. Over here. No, you're looking on the wrong one. These essential questions. Sarah. These ones right here. And then please talk to somebody next to you and make sure we are on the same page. Share what you circled and share what you underlined. So for these essential questions, what are the verbs? What are the actions in those 2 sentences?
Okay. I did the same thing.
Go ahead and talk. Go ahead and share. Chelsea, you want to share with Al what you came up with? How are we doing? Good? Are we all in agreement? Okay. How are we doing over here? Good. Good? We all in agreement?
Yeah.
Yep. Branson, well, let's talk about it. What'd you think?
I thought significant was a verb.
Why would you think that?
Well, I didn't know what significant means.
It's okay. Do you have an idea now what you think it means? What would be another word? What could you replace significant with? What's a word? Food table. So instead of significant, what else could we use?
We don't even know the word. We just figured it's a noun.
Okay, you're correct. It's a noun. I would replace it with the word important. So replace that sentence with important. Does that sentence make sense to you now?
Yeah.
What makes, how can change be important? Does that make sense? Yeah?
I went to your sister.
Okay, if you are finished and had a chance to discuss, please look up here. Okay, remember, when I ask you to discuss with a table group, I actually want you to talk. Okay? Sometimes we're doing things and I don't want you to talk, and I have to remind you that we have to be quiet and to pay attention. But when I ask you to share, I do want you to discuss, and I do want you to talk about things. Okay? And not just the same person doing the talking. So if Addie and Amaya are always partners, and Addie's just so talkative, she does all the talking, and she doesn't let Amaya get a word in, then that's not really working in that group, okay? We have to make sure that we are sharing back and forth, and I do want you to discuss. Everyone clear on that? So when I'm asking you to discuss, that is exactly what I want you to do. You don't have to be quiet. I do want you to talk to your table groups. Okay. So those essential questions are the questions that we're focusing on in the unit. The blue table brought up something good. They weren't really sure what the word significant meant. Did anyone else come across that? Yeah? So, and I explained to them, if you took the word significant and you replace it with another word, that's a good strategy. If you're not sure what the word is, replace it with something else that might work. And I told them to replace it with important. So let's read that sentence again and replace the word significant with important. How can change be important? Does that make sense? What the question is asking a little bit more? Okay, good. Who can answer that question for me? How can change be significant or important? Sean.
Well, if you're doing bad things that you shouldn't be doing, change might be a good thing.
Okay, good. So if you're doing something you shouldn't, and then if you maybe think about it or decide to change your ways, then that would be important. Is that what you're saying? Mm-hmm. Good, nice example. Any other ways that change can be significant or important? Sierra?
Change can be like important because if you haven't changed a lot in your life and you're you might change the way that you do things and what you the way that you treat people.
Mm-hmm. Good. Anyone else? Somebody who has not shared yet. How about somebody from the blue table? Can you think of why change would be important or significant? When would there be a time in your life when change was a good thing? Anyone think of any examples? No examples? Ricardo? Be brave. You can do it.
Change could be when you change personality.
Yeah. Why would that be a good thing? How about if you're always grumpy and you show up to school and you're always grumpy and you're always in a bad mood? Why would I need to change? Ricardo? If I became nicer, would that be a good thing? Yeah, so that would be an example of how changing your personality would be good. Terrell?
Your grades.
Your grades. Hopefully change for the better?
Yeah.
Right? That would be an example of change that's good, yes. Raise your hand if you can think of a time where you had to change something about yourself. Has everyone experienced change? Think about it. Has anyone moved to a new school? Has anyone had to do something that maybe they didn't feel comfortable doing? Like maybe speaking and raising your hand in a classroom full of people. Yes? Okay. Let's look at the second essential question now. What makes a good story? Think about stories that you enjoy reading. Okay? What makes them good? Let's have new volunteers, people who have not raised their hand yet. What makes a story good? Radu.
I like stories that stuff is always happening.
Okay, so you like something, you don't want it to be boring. You want it to be exciting and entertaining. Cannon.
Something that has action in it.
Action. Okay, good. Caroline.
I like mysteries.
Mystery stories. Okay. Walker.
I like stories with a big turn in the middle of the book.
Okay, like a cliffhanger or something big that happens. Good. Al, is your hand up? No? What kind of stories do you like to read? Don't know? Aubrey. Fantasy books. Okay, so think about those books that you like to read. Think about what makes them good. Okay? Don't tell me out loud what it is, but raise your hand if you've read a book that was really, really boring. Okay? How many people have started a book and you really didn't like it and you just stopped because it was so boring? Okay, I've done that too. So it's important to know the difference between what makes a good story that you want to keep reading and what's a story that I don't really know if I want to finish it. Okay, and we're going to be looking at that a little bit more as we go on through this unit. So now what we are going to do, we're going to do an activity called unpacking an embedded assessment. So I want you to think about if you go on a vacation somewhere and you have a trip that you go on and you have to put all your clothes and your stuff. Let's say we're going to Hawaii, just because. You're going to put all your shorts and your bathing suits and your sunscreen and your sunglasses and your flip-flops in your suitcase, okay? You go and you have this amazing trip and then you come back, and what do you have to do to your suitcase? You have to unpack it. You have to take everything out and put it in its place. So we are not going on a trip, but we are going to unpack the first embedded assessment, okay? So please look on page 4 at the bottom and find the section that says Unpacking Embedded Assessment 1. Can someone read just that first sentence and then the little bit right below it? Sean, can you read that nice and loud, please?
The assignment is to write a personal narrative that includes a well-told incident, a response to the incident, and a reflection about the significance of the incident.
Okay, very good. So we're going to take, that is your embedded assessment 1. Okay, today is the first day, this is lesson 1.1. We already know what your assessment is going to be in October, right before conference time. This is it right here. So we're going to unpack that and look at it, and we're going to kind of break it apart or analyze all the parts of the embedded assessment, and we're going to talk about each one. Okay? Does that make sense what unpacking is? We're taking the big piece and we're going to unpack it piece by piece, and we're going to put it all together just to see what the final embedded assessment will look like. So let's look at the parts that we have so far. I'm going to move over here. Okay, up here I'm starting a web. Okay, I'm going to keep this web over here throughout the unit so we can refer back to it, and we might even add stuff to it. So in the middle here I have Unit 1 Embedded Assessment number 1. Okay, what are we writing? What is our final product going to be? It says right here in this Unpacking Embedded Assessment, Sean read it to us. What are we making? A personal narrative. Yes, that is our goal. So when we are doing our assessment, we're going to write a personal narrative. Okay? What is that? What is a personal narrative? Isaiah?
Like something personal about you?
Yep, it's about you. You're going to be writing about yourself. Does anyone know what a narrative is? What's a narrative? Ryan? Yeah, and we're going to do what? You're going to tell
About yourself.
You're going to tell a story about yourself. Okay? So let's look at the parts, the part that Sean just read to us out loud, where it says your assignment. What are the things that we need to include in this personal narrative? Raise your hand when you found one. Bo.
A well-told incident.
Good. A well-told incident. Okay, what's an incident? What's an incident? Sarah? Yeah, it's something that happens. Who's it going to happen to? You, right? 'Cause it's a personal narrative. What else? What else are we going to include in here? Addie?
A response.
A response to the incident. Okay, what does that mean? A response to the incident. What does that mean, Terrell?
Tell what the incident is about.
Yeah, and if I'm going to respond to something, it's how did I react because of the incident, okay? So let's say the incident was I fell and tripped in a mud puddle. The response would be how did I respond to that, okay? And what else is going to be included in here? There's one more major thing that it lists. Al?
A reflection about a significant.
Significant?
Yeah,
Yep. That's a hard word to say. Yes, very good. So the reflection. About the significance. What did I tell you? Another word that we could replace significance. What could we replace it with, Branson? Important. Okay. I'm going to write significance of the incident. Okay. So when you are writing your embedded assessment, there's 3 parts you need to include: the incident, your response, and your reflection. Now, this isn't happening until October, but it might be a good idea for you to start thinking about what's something I would like to write about in a story. Okay, Sean.
What's the reflection about the significance of the incident supposed to be?
Okay, so so pretend that this goes in order. So something happens to you. Fall in a mud puddle. How do you respond? You freak out and start crying. Okay? Maybe. Reflection. Then you're going to think about that. You're going to think about how you responded to your incident. Okay? So maybe I freak out and I start crying. Doesn't really solve my problem of being muddy, does it? So I'm going to reflect about this, and maybe I'm going to come up with another solution or something I could have done differently. Does that help a little bit? Okay, it kind of all just depends on what your incident is. Okay, so the reflection piece is going to be you're thinking about or reflecting on this incident, and maybe you're thinking about how the importance of it or the significance. Okay, so maybe I thought it was the end of the world because I fell in a mud puddle, when really all I needed to do, I called my mom, I got a change of clothes, and it's not a big deal. Okay, does that answer your question? Okay, all right. Now, I want you to do something. Turn to page 49 in your book. Okay, so we all know what we're going to be writing. Yes, we all know what we're going to be writing. Now, even cooler, I'm going to show you the rubric, what I'm going to be using to grade your story. So on page 49, here's the scoring guide. Okay, so if you look at the columns on the top, we have exemplary, proficient, emerging, and incomplete. Okay, so think of this, if I'm grading on a scale of 4, 3, 2, 1, an exemplary example or a paper would probably be a 4. Okay, I want us today just to look at the proficient column right here. So put your finger on proficient. Okay, now all of these bullet points here that go down the column, if I'm seeing these things in your story, if I'm reading these things, then that's how I will score it as proficient or a 3. So let's break this apart a little bit. Let's look in just the top box that says ideas. And there are 2 bullet points. Okay, the first one says presents a focused and significant incident. Can someone tell me what does that mean? If I'm grading and I'm looking for a focused, significant incident, what am I looking for specifically? What am I looking for? Al?
Something, the incident that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. If it's focused, what is it? Caroline?
You're mostly telling about the incident.
I'm not talking about all these other things that happened in my day, right? If I'm writing about when I fell in a mud puddle, I'm not writing about what I had for lunch. I'm not writing about what somebody said to me at recess. I'm focusing on just the incident, okay? And the significance. What does significance mean again? Importance, right? Is it important? So whatever you choose to write about, it's got to be something that's important or meaningful, okay? You're not going to write a story about how your bus ride was to school on a Tuesday, okay? It's going to be something that's important, that means something. It was important in your life. Maybe you learned something from it. Maybe it's something, and it doesn't have to be a good thing. It can be a bad thing, like falling in a mud puddle, okay? Something that was big in your lifetime. The second bullet point, let's read that together in the proficient column. It says develops experiences, events, and or characters through techniques such as dialogue, pacing, and descriptive details. Okay. Can someone with those first two bullet points, can we add to this list that we have of things that we'll need in our personal narrative? So the first thing that I said, actually let me write that down, a focused focused incident. So it's going to be focused, okay? Now that second bullet point, what else could I add here to my chart? Amaya?
Events.
What?
Events.
Events, okay? So I'm going to have events. What else can I add? Shiloh? Ooh, yeah. What are descriptive details? What does that mean?
Describing the detail of the story.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I might, in my story, I might describe how it felt to be covered in mud. Okay, I might describe how the sounds I made when I yelled after falling or something like that. Something else that can go in here. Ryan. Dialogue. What's dialogue?
There's two people talking to each other.
Yep, talking. It's talking. Okay. Caroline, what else? Characters. Now, in my story, I'm obviously a character because it happened to me. Who else might be a character in my story? And I made this up too, by the way, so there's not a right or wrong answer. Who else might be a character, Isaiah? A friend, maybe, that saw me fall. Who else? My mom, maybe, because I called her to get new clothes. Branson? What? A cousin who maybe saw? Maybe? Okay. All right. Look at... Oh, there's one more thing. One more thing in that bullet point. Sierra?
Pacing.
Pacing. What does pacing mean?
Like
Go ahead.
like not put all your words in like one sentence and like kind of like pace yourself to make it like a bigger and like descriptive.
Good. Okay, now here's your job. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more bullet points in that proficient column. Okay, I want you to start reading and raise your hand when you see something that we can add to this chart. All right, you are looking at just the proficient column. Raise your hand when you see things that I can be adding. All right, someone raise their hand and tell me, what else can we add to this poster? There should be lots of hands up. New people haven't raised their hand yet today. Chelsea, did you find something? What's something else that we can add from the proficient column? Can I come back to you? Okay. Let's see, Sean.
Use transitional words, phrases, and to link events and sequential shifts.
Okay, that's a mouthful. Can we shorten that? What's something else that we can add? Go ahead. Sean, go ahead.
Use transitional words, phrases, and clauses.
Okay. So I'm going to make another branch over here. So transitions. What else? More hands, please. More hands. Addie.
Adequate introduction.
Okay, an adequate introduction. What's the introduction? What would it be in my story?
You fell in love with
Uh-huh. I'd kind of have to set it up, right? So you'd have to know where I was, what I was doing, everything that led up to it. So, intro. Other things that I'm going to have in my embedded assessment. Sierra?
Pronouns.
Pronouns, yep. What is a pronoun? So what is a noun? Person, place, or thing. So it's just another way. Yep. Do you understand pronouns? Trail? What? Introduction, we've got that. Other things to add. Emily? Yeah, what's a conclusion? And my conclusion actually probably should be connected to the reflection. So think about my situation, my mud puddle situation. Okay, the conclusion is going to be what happened afterwards. Okay, I'm probably going to reflect a little bit on what happened, and I'm going to talk about how the story wrapped up. Anything else we need to add? Shiloh.
Sound and punctuation.
Yes, yes, yes. Always important. Spelling, punctuation. Okay. We are going to leave this. I will put it up over here on the wall. We're going to be adding to this as we go, and there's probably lots more things that we can focus on and add to our list. As we go, each lesson is going to address these different things. Okay? So you should have a pretty good idea now of what we're going to be doing. And as we go, we're going to practice some of these skills. We're going to practice describing an incident. We're going to practice using descriptive details. We're going to practice writing dialogue. Okay? Make sense so far? Can someone please, in their own words, tell me, why are we doing this now? Why are we not doing it right before? Ridu?
So we know what to write and practice.
Yeah. And we're going to be able to be successful on the embedded assessment because we've been practicing and we've been taking the steps that we need to get there. Okay, I skipped something in your book, so go back to page 4. And I forgot, we did a little bit of this on Thursday with the QHT chart. Remember our QHT strategy. So Q words, you have a question about it. H words, you've heard it before, but you're not quite sure. And then T words, you know it so well you could teach it. I would like you to write QHT next to the literary terms that are on page 2. So last week we did the academic vocabulary. Let's do the same thing with the literary terms, and we're going to write a Q, an H, and a T next to them. Sean, while they're doing that, this is my notebook. If you want to, did you get it all copied? How you need to? Do you want to check mine to make sure? Or you feel like you've got it? Okay. Jaden, this is my notebook. If you want to go ahead and copy it, what I have, so you can get yours filled out. table? Are you ready to move on?
When I'm really confused on this one, it's
Connotation. All right, so our first word, analyze. Okay, look at on the chart. Did you say it was a Q word, a T word, and an H word last week? And then I want you to think about today. Do you feel like you can at least call it an H or a T word today? Yeah? Okay, good. Okay, last thing I have for you today, and then it's time for math. In your INB, at the bottom of the page, or right underneath the last thing that you wrote, you're going to write a quick reflection for me, and I'm going to set a 3-minute timer, and I want you to answer this question for me, please. Okay. I want you to answer essential question number 1. How can change be significant? How can change be significant? We talked about some answers. We talked about what significant means. It means how can change be important? And I want you to brainstorm. You can make this a list. You can write incomplete sentences. We're going to write for about 3 minutes about how change can be significant. And you're writing this in your interactive notebook. Ready, go. And you should have enough room right here. You can write it up here so you have room. In here, Josie. Write it in here. Do you remember what significant means? Important. So you can think of examples of when change would be important. Can you keep writing, please? We're going to keep writing the whole time. Branson, we're going to keep writing the whole time, okay? You can do this. Okay. One more minute. Try and keep going for 1 more minute. Caroline, keep going, please. All right, finish up the thought that you were working on. Okay, last thing, really quickly before we pack up, just listen please. So remember how we started on Friday? We wrote the what, our learning targets in our own words. We circle, underlined. Isaiah, I need you to have a seat. Thank you. We circle, underlined. Then we did the why they are important. When you come in tomorrow, we're doing all of those steps together. Okay? And we'll be on lesson 1.2. Our goal, does anyone remember the time that I would like for you to take to do all of that? The what and the why. Do you remember how long?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Now, we might not get there for a while. It might take us a little bit. Thank you for those people that are not packing up and they're just listening. Okay, it might take us a while to get there, but that is our goal, to have all of that done in 5 minutes so then we can be wrapped up and move on. Okay? When you put these away before you do, remember I want your IND on top of your springboard book, and then you're going to set them in piles, and then one person from each group, please walk them back to the baskets. Everyone else, you may go ahead and start packing up for math class.